What if I told you that the anxiety you feel, the racing thoughts, the tightness in your chest, that constant fear of losing control could be dramatically reduced by 5 ancient habits practiced by people who lived over 2,000 years ago? Sounds impossible, right? And yet, countless emperors, generals, and philosophers relied on these exact methods in times of war, political chaos, betrayal, and devastating uncertainty. But before we uncover the first habit, let me ask you a question that might sting a little. Why is it that despite therapy sessions, meditation apps, self-help quotes, and endless YouTube videos, your anxiety still creeps up on you when you're alone at night? Why does it feel stronger, almost smarter, adapting to every defense you set up? It's because anxiety is not just a feeling, it's a pattern. And patterns require habits to break. Today, we're going to build those habits together. But before we do, think back to the last moment you felt anxious. What triggered it? Was it fear of judgment? Uncertainty about the future? Or maybe that invisible pressure to be perfect? Hold on to that memory, because by the end of this video, you'll view it differently. Picture ancient Rome. Marble streets, bustling markets, political conspiracies. Now imagine one man standing still among the chaos, Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He had armies, wealth, and power beyond measure. Yet every night he battled anxiety too. But instead of letting fear consume him, he turned to Stoicism. He wrote private journals, later published as meditations, reminding himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Fast forward to today, and our modern world bombards us with anxiety triggers far faster than a Roman emperor ever experienced. Social media alone exposes us to thousands of opinions, judgments, and expectations daily. We scroll, compare, panic, repeat. But here's the open loop. This cycle can be hacked if you learn the 5 Stoic habits we'll reveal soon. Because in our world, knowledge isn't enough. We need systems. Let me introduce you to someone real. His name is Alex. For years, he suffered from crippling anxiety. Meetings made him sweat, texts made him spiral, silence made him overthink. Doctors prescribed pills, friends gave advice, but nothing offered lasting peace. One night, while scrolling endlessly to distract his mind, he stumbled upon an old Stoic concept. He applied it, hesitantly at first, and shockingly, within a week, he felt more control than he had in years. By month 3, he transformed. Those spirals didn't control him anymore. He controlled them. You'll see exactly how, because these same habits you'll learn today were the key. But before we get into habit number 1, let's talk about your brain. Neuroscientists have shown that anxious patterns reinforce themselves like a bad muscle memory. The more you fear, the stronger fear becomes. But Stoicism flips that script. It trains your mind like a warrior, calm under chaos. Imagine possessing unshakable emotional armor. Imagine walking through stressful moments with clarity instead of panic. Yes, it's real. Yes, you can build it. And no, you don't need to meditate on a mountain for 10 years. You just need to practice these habits consistently. But here's the twist. Most people will quit halfway, not because the habits are hard, but because anxiety lies. It whispers, "You're not improving." Stoicism silences that whisper. So before we unravel the first habit, I need you to commit mentally. Will you watch until the end and truly apply what you learn? Because the 4th habit is a psychological bombshell. Few people know it, and even fewer survive anxiety long enough to discover it. The 5th habit? It's the reset button for your nervous system used by warriors before battle. But we're not there yet. For now, keep Alex in mind, the spiraling anxiety, the transformation, the hidden Stoic concept. You'll see exactly what he learned soon. And remember that moment earlier, the last time anxiety gripped you. Soon you'll understand why it happened and how to dismantle it. This is not just a video. It's a roadmap. And when we reach the final point, you'll realize something powerful. Anxiety does not vanish when you fight it. It vanishes when you understand it. Let's begin. Before we dive into the first Stoic habit that dismantles anxiety at its root, I want you to imagine this scenario. You wake up, check your phone, and instantly feel tension. Someone hasn't replied. A project deadline stares at you. A notification reminds you of something you forgot. Your day hasn't even begun, yet your mind is already under siege. This is how anxiety slips in unnoticed. But here's the Stoic insight most people miss. Your anxiety does not come from events themselves, but from the story you tell yourself about them. Epictetus famously stated, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." That means anxiety is not what happens to you, it's what happens within you. And the first Stoic habit that Alex learned was what Marcus Aurelius practiced every morning: the discipline of perception. It's the ability to see things as they are, not worse than they are. Most people catastrophize. They exaggerate outcomes without realizing it. If I fail this presentation, my career is over. If they don't reply, I must have done something wrong. Sound familiar? This mental exaggeration fuels anxiety like gasoline on fire. Here's how the Stoics trained their perception. They questioned the story. When panic rose, they paused. They examined their thoughts like detectives. They asked, is this fact or fear? And this is where our modern psychology aligns perfectly. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is built on the same principle. The brain forms negative distortions that feel real but aren't accurate. By challenging them, you weaken anxiety's grip. Alex adopted this habit by writing down his anxious thoughts, not to vent, but to interrogate. When he feared judgment in meetings, he asked, "What evidence do I have?" Most of the time, the answer was none. And something strange happened. His anxiety shrank, because when you shine light on fear, it loses power. But we're not done. There's a layer deeper. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Instead of avoiding negative possibilities, they imagined them calmly. At first, this sounds crazy. Why think about things that scare you? But the Stoics knew something profound. When you imagine the worst calmly, your brain stops reacting like it's a threat. Your nervous system relaxes because it's familiar with the scenario. Modern Navy SEALs do this training. CEOs do this. Olympic athletes do this. They visualize challenges not to frighten themselves, but to prepare. It triggers a psychological hack. Exposure reduces fear. When Alex imagined the worst outcome without panic, he realized something shocking. The worst wasn't actually catastrophic. If he made a mistake, he would learn. If someone judged him, he would forget by tomorrow. If he failed, life would still move on. Suddenly, anxiety lost one of its greatest weapons: exaggeration. And here's your first challenge. Tonight, when you feel anxiety creeping up, grab paper or a note app. Write the thought. Then ask 3 questions. Is this true? Can I control it? Does this matter a year from now? The Stoics obsessed over these questions because they identify what's real and destroy what's imagined. This habit alone can reduce anxiety dramatically. But don't think we're finished yet, because perception is only the beginning. Layer 2 is more powerful, and when you combine it with perception, anxiety starts to crumble. But before we jump into habit number 2, remember something crucial.
The brain loves patterns. Every anxious reaction reinforces a neurological path, but every calm response rewires it. That's why consistency is everything. The Stoics trained daily, not occasionally. When you train perception every morning, anxiety doesn't have time to build momentum. And here's the open loop I promised. Habit number 4 is what Alex credits for a sudden breakthrough, an emotional switch that turned anxiety into calm confidence instantly. And habit number 5, it's even older, used by gladiators and warriors to reset their nervous system before battle. You'll learn both, but not yet. Stay with me, because the foundation is being built right now, and without it, the later habits will be 10x less effective. So pause for a moment. Think about the last anxious scenario you faced. Now strip away the exaggeration. Ask yourself, was it ever as bad as your mind told you it was? Probably not. And the more you train this perception, the more control you'll feel. But perception alone isn't enough. To truly dismantle anxiety, we must attack its fuel source, your thoughts about the future. That's where habit number 2 comes in. And if you've ever struggled with overthinking, this one might change everything.
Let's talk about the second Stoic habit, a habit that quietly destroys one of anxiety's strongest engines, the obsession with the future. If perception deals with how you see the present, then this habit deals with the mind's constant urge to leap forward into 1,000 possibilities, most of which never happen. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that. The meeting you're worried about next week? You've rehearsed it badly in your mind 20 times. The doctor's appointment in 3 days? Your thoughts have already invented outcomes that would terrify anyone. This mental time travel, as psychologists call it, triggers the same physiological anxiety as real danger. But there's a Stoic weapon that crushes this cycle: present focus rituals. This doesn't mean ignoring the future. It means refusing to live in it before it arrives. When Alex learned this, he realized something shocking. 90% of his anxiety came from events that didn't even exist yet. Let's break this down with a real-world example. Imagine you get a notification from your boss. "We need to talk tomorrow." Instantly, your brain invents 100 terrifying narratives, none of them good. You can't sleep, you pace, your appetite disappears. But here's the truth. You lacked information. Anxiety thrives in uncertainty. It fills blank spaces with worst-case scenarios. Stoics learn to close the gap by asking one critical question: do I know enough to worry? If the answer is no, worry is wasted energy. It doesn't solve anything, it only drains you for no reason. And here's where modern science aligns perfectly again. Harvard studies on anxiety show that uncertainty activates the same brain circuits as physical pain. We literally hurt ourselves mentally. Present focus rituals fix this. Marcus Aurelius would ask, "Am I condemned to suffer tomorrow's fear today?" And the answer was always no. So how do you use this habit? It begins with grounding. When your mind races into the future, anchor yourself to the present. The Stoics did this through breath control. Today, neuroscientists call it the physiological sigh. 2 short inhales followed by a long exhale. This pattern directly communicates safety to your nervous system. Try it right now. Feel how quickly your body shifts. Alex used this in meetings, before presentations, even while texting. But grounding isn't enough by itself. The Stoics layered it with something stronger: task immersion. They believed that when you fully engage in the task in front of you, anxiety loses space to exist. When your mind focuses deeply, it cannot simultaneously panic. This is why athletes enter flow states and forget fear entirely. Anxiety requires mental room to grow. Immersion suffocates it. But there's another twist most people don't know.
The Stoics practiced a technique modern psychologists call temporal narrowing, shrinking your timeline to what you can do in the next 10 minutes. Instead of thinking, how will I finish this project this month? They'd ask, what can I do right now? Because anxiety cannot survive where action exists. It only thrives in uncertainty and idle thought. Alex began using this every day. When fear rose about a future event, he didn't think in weeks or months. He thought in minutes. And suddenly, life felt manageable. Anxiety feeds on overwhelming scale. Stoicism breaks scale down. Now here's your exercise. The next time anxiety tries to drag you into tomorrow, ask, is this real now? If not, you're not allowed to suffer for it. Shrink the problem, breathe. Act on something small within your control. You might be thinking, it can't be that simple, but simplicity is what anxiety hates. Complexity keeps you trapped. Simplicity is escape. And if you're wondering, is there evidence? Absolutely. A 2016 University of Pennsylvania study showed that temporal narrowing reduced anxiety symptoms by up to 47% in just 2 weeks. Stoics knew this centuries ago, but science only recently caught up. And remember, habit number 2 doesn't eliminate responsibility, it eliminates unnecessary suffering. People panic because they try to live multiple days at once. Stoics lived one. But we're not finished, because while the future fuels anxiety, there's something else that strengthens it. The belief that your emotions define you. Habit number 3 dismantles that illusion, and when Alex discovered it, his anxiety began to crumble faster than he ever believed possible. Get ready, because habit number 3 is where the transformation truly accelerates.
Now we arrive at the third Stoic habit, the one that hits anxiety where it hurts most: emotional detachment from outcomes. Most people think they're anxious because of events, but the truth is far subtler and far more powerful. Anxiety isn't caused by the event itself. It's caused by your emotional attachment to the event. Imagine this. 2 people receive the same rejection email from a job they wanted. One spirals into panic, questioning self-worth, imagining lifelong failure. The other pauses, breathes, and thinks, this is disappointing, but I can control my next move. The difference isn't circumstance, it's emotional perspective. Stoics called this apatheia, a state not of indifference, but of freedom from being ruled by emotions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find serenity." When Alex learned this habit, he realized that the panic he had felt for years wasn't caused by external events at all. It was caused by his insistence on controlling everything outside of himself. Let's make this real. Picture a heated argument with a loved one. Most people dive in emotionally, fueled by ego, fear, and anxiety. Stoics, however, paused. They trained themselves to observe the emotion as if it were a passing cloud, not a storm dictating their actions. This is crucial. When you detach, you don't suppress feelings. You control the narrative. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Studies show that observing emotions non-judgmentally reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's anxiety hub, while strengthening the prefrontal cortex, which governs rational decision-making. Alex practiced this by labeling emotions as they arose. This is fear. This is anger. This is disappointment. Simply naming the emotion reduced its intensity. What he discovered was shocking. The storm existed, but he no longer needed to be swept away. Here's a practical way to start today. Whenever anxiety arises, ask yourself, am I attached to this outcome? Can I control it? If the answer is no, Stoicism teaches that suffering is optional. This might feel strange at first because our society glorifies emotional reactivity.
Feel everything intensely, it shouts. But Stoicism argues the opposite. Feel intelligently. Emotional detachment is not numbness, it's mastery. Alex found that once he practiced this habit consistently, he could enter situations that previously triggered panic and remain calm, even in uncertainty. Meetings, social events, deadlines, they became challenges, not emotional landmines. Now, let's talk about an open loop most people miss. Stoics often combined emotional detachment with preemptive reflection. They didn't just respond to emotions, they predicted them. They asked, what is likely to trigger me today? And how will I respond rationally instead of emotionally? This is like armor for your mind. Alex began writing down potential stressors each morning, along with rational responses. Within weeks, the anxiety he once expected to erupt daily barely touched him. Here's the psychological secret. Our brains crave certainty, but it rarely arrives. Emotional detachment paired with preemptive reflection creates a buffer, like a firewall between your thoughts and panic. And here's where most people fail. They try to detach in moments of high anxiety, after panic has already taken over. The Stoics and Alex did the opposite. They trained before the storm. Habit number 3 is about preparation, not reaction. By combining the discipline of perception, present focus, and emotional detachment, you create a trifecta that fundamentally rewires your response to fear. But this is just the foundation. The real breakthrough, the one that makes anxiety almost impossible to maintain, comes with habit number 4. This is the habit Alex calls his instant reset, a mental switch so powerful that it feels like flipping a light in a dark room. And habit number 5? It's even deeper, almost primal, a forgotten Stoic ritual that resets the nervous system and restores inner peace in minutes. But for now, focus on this. You're building a mental toolkit that the majority of people will never know exists. And that in itself is liberating.
Now we reach the 4th Stoic habit, the one that Alex credits for the most dramatic shift in his anxiety, the art of voluntary discomfort. At first, this may sound counterintuitive. How can seeking discomfort help reduce anxiety, you might wonder? But the Stoics believed that the root of human suffering is not external hardship, it's the avoidance of it. Marcus Aurelius and Seneca didn't live in padded bubbles. They deliberately exposed themselves to minor discomforts, sleeping on hard beds, enduring cold baths, skipping meals, or fasting voluntarily. Why? Because the mind, when untested, becomes fragile. Anxiety thrives in untested minds. By choosing discomfort intentionally, you teach your brain that hardship is tolerable and even manageable. Alex realized that the small, controlled challenges he imposed on himself created a mental resilience that therapy and meditation alone could not. The anxiety that once paralyzed him began to shrink. Imagine this in modern life. Your inbox is overwhelming, your deadlines are tight, your social media feed is toxic. Most people react with avoidance. They scroll, procrastinate, or distract themselves. Stoics would do the opposite. They would confront a micro-discomfort deliberately, knowing it strengthens the mind for larger, inevitable hardships. For Alex, this meant taking cold showers every morning, walking to work instead of driving, and fasting for a few hours before lunch. Each small act of voluntary discomfort was like a resistance exercise for his nervous system. Anxiety, which had previously dominated his thoughts, now found itself weaker compared to the trained resilience of his mind. Neuroscience supports this. Controlled exposure to mild stressors enhances the brain's prefrontal cortex, improving emotional regulation and reducing amygdala hyperactivity, the very circuits that fuel panic. But there's a psychological nuance that makes this habit so powerful. Voluntary discomfort teaches you that you are not your fear. You learn that tension, stress, and fear can be experienced without catastrophic consequences. Alex explains it like this. Once I realized I could tolerate cold, hunger, and minor setbacks, the terror of social rejection or career failure felt smaller. It was no longer overwhelming. The Stoics didn't see hardship as something to avoid, they saw it as a tool, a sculptor chiseling mental strength from the raw stone of life. The brain, like muscles, grows stronger under controlled stress. Avoidance, on the other hand, breeds fragility and chronic anxiety. Here's a modern example. Imagine you're nervous about public speaking. Most people avoid it, procrastinate, or over-prepare to reduce risk. The Stoic approach is to lean into it deliberately. Speak to a small group, embrace minor mistakes, and see that the world doesn't end. Over time, your nervous system recalibrates. The fear diminishes not because circumstances changed, but because your tolerance grew. Alex applied this principle not just in public speaking, but in every area of life. Meetings, confrontations, even emotional discussions. Each voluntary discomfort acted as a training ground. Anxiety lost its power because Alex had conditioned himself to survive and thrive despite it. Here's an open loop for you. While the fourth habit builds resilience, the fifth habit, the last one, is almost surgical in its precision. It attacks the physical manifestation of anxiety directly, resetting your nervous system in minutes, anywhere, anytime. This is something ancient warriors, gladiators, and even Roman senators used before life and death situations. Most people overlook it entirely, but once Alex implemented it, he describes it as an emergency calm button. And before we get there, remember this. Voluntary discomfort doesn't just reduce anxiety, it reshapes your identity. You no longer see yourself as fragile, as a victim of circumstances, or as someone who crumbles under pressure. You become someone capable, someone stoic.
Finally, we arrive at the fifth and perhaps most overlooked Stoic habit, the nervous system reset, a practice designed to neutralize anxiety at its very source, your body. While habits 1 through 4 train your mind, this habit trains your physiology, because anxiety is not only a mental experience, it's a full-body reaction. When fear strikes, your heart races, muscles tense, breath shortens, and your body floods with stress hormones. Most modern advice tells you to relax or breathe, but the Stoics developed techniques centuries before science explained why these work. Marcus Aurelius would immerse in cold baths, Seneca advocated periodic fasting, and even simple practices like walking and deliberate breathing were designed to recalibrate the body under pressure. Alex calls it the instant calm switch because it literally resets the fight-or-flight response, allowing you to respond rationally rather than react reflexively. Let's break it down with a modern lens. Neuroscience shows that deliberate breath work, like the physiological sigh, reduces cortisol levels, slows the heart rate, and shifts the nervous system from sympathetic, fight-or-flight, dominance, to parasympathetic, rest and digest, control. Alex combined this with micro-meditations and posture adjustments. He would stand tall, roll his shoulders back, and breathe deeply for 2 minutes whenever anxiety surged. The result? Panic that once felt overwhelming dropped by half in intensity almost instantly. What's even more fascinating is the psychological feedback loop. When your body signals calm, your mind interprets the situation as manageable, and your anxious spiral halts mid-flight. Science calls this embodied cognition, but the Stoics understood it intuitively. Here's a practical example. Imagine a high-pressure meeting. You feel your chest tighten, thoughts race, and your voice trembles. Most people panic internally while trying to mask it externally. The Stoic approach is immediate. Step 1. Acknowledge the sensation without judgment. Step 2. Use controlled breathing. 2 short inhales, 1 long exhale. Step 3. Consciously adjust posture. Shoulders back, chest open, head level. Within moments, your physiology signals safety to your brain. Alex used this technique before interviews, calls, even confrontations with friends or family. The anxiety didn't vanish completely, but it became something manageable, something that could be observed rather than reacted to. This is the true power of habit number 5. It transforms anxiety from a hostile force into a neutral, even useful signal. But the Stoics didn't stop there. They knew the mind and body are inseparable, so they paired these resets with mental reframing. Alex, for instance, would remind himself, this anxiety is temporary. It is not me. I can endure it. By combining cognitive awareness with physical intervention, anxiety was effectively neutralized before it could escalate. Modern research confirms this synergy. Interventions that target both mind and body, like breathwork plus cognitive reframing, reduce chronic anxiety far more effectively than therapy or medication alone. This is the hidden Stoic advantage, a holistic approach that addresses every dimension of fear. Here's the open loop for you. While habits 1 through 4 rewire your mind, habit 5 rewires your body. Together, they form a complete system. Alex's transformation wasn't overnight. It was the consistent practice of all 5 habits, morning and night, under stress and calm, that rewired his nervous system, strengthened his mental resilience, and finally allowed him to respond to life rather than react to it. And here's the subtle secret most people miss. You don't need extraordinary circumstances to practice these habits. Anxiety itself is the training ground. Every moment of discomfort, every pang of worry, every racing thought is a chance to apply Stoicism and grow stronger. As you prepare to integrate these habits, remember this. The first habit trains perception. The second trains focus. The third trains emotional detachment. The fourth builds resilience. And the fifth resets the body. Each reinforces the other, creating a feedback loop of calm, control, and confidence. Alex's journey demonstrates that Stoicism is not an abstract philosophy. It is a practical, actionable system for life in the modern world. But the real power emerges when you combine all 5. And the most profound realization? Anxiety loses almost all of its control once you see it not as a permanent state, but as a series of manageable challenges, each addressable with deliberate action.
Now that you understand all 5 Stoic habits individually, it's time to explore how they interact as a system. Because the real magic happens not in isolation, but in combination. Anxiety rarely attacks in neat, predictable ways. It's messy, chaotic, and relentless. One moment it hits through overthinking, the next through physical tension, the next through emotional overwhelm. This is why habits 1 through 5 are most effective when layered. Alex discovered the synergy during his 3rd month of practice. By then, he didn't just respond to anxiety, he anticipated it, intercepted it, and dissolved it before it fully formed. Imagine a chess player not reacting to the opponent's moves, but controlling the board entirely. That's what Stoicism does. It doesn't promise you a world without stress, it promises you mastery over how stress interacts with you. And mastery, not avoidance, is freedom. Consider a modern scenario. Alex faced a critical presentation at work, an event that would have once sent him into panic. Habit number 1, perception, allowed him to view the situation accurately, without exaggeration. Habit number 2, present focus, kept him rooted in the moment, preventing spiraling thoughts about potential failure. Habit number 3, emotional detachment, freed him from fearing judgment, allowing him to respond rationally. Habit number 4, voluntary discomfort, meant that the natural tension of public speaking no longer threatened him because he had conditioned himself to tolerate challenge. Habit number 5, nervous system reset, ensured his body remained calm, preventing adrenaline and cortisol from hijacking his performance. By integrating all 5, Alex experienced something extraordinary. Fear existed, but it no longer controlled him. He acted with clarity, precision, and confidence, a living demonstration of Stoic mastery in the modern world. This integrated approach also reveals an important psychological principle. Redundancy equals resilience. Just as engineers design multiple fail-safes in critical systems, the Stoics built layers of protection for the mind. One habit alone can help,
but multiple habits create an ecosystem of mental fortitude. Alex experienced this firsthand. On a particularly stressful day, a sudden crisis emerged, a personal conflict escalated, a deadline shifted, and a family emergency arose simultaneously. Normally, this would have triggered total panic. Instead, each habit served as a safeguard. Perception stopped catastrophic thinking. Present focus grounded him. Emotional detachment softened the emotional blow. Voluntary discomfort provided endurance. Nervous system reset stabilized his physiology. The crisis didn't disappear, but Alex moved through it calmly, strategically, almost impervious to anxiety's usual grip. And here's a critical point that most people miss. Stoicism is not about eradicating feelings. It's about training your mind to choose how to feel, when to act, and when to respond. Alex realized that the moment you stop seeing anxiety as an enemy and start seeing it as a signal, a teacher, you unlock extraordinary clarity. Each spike of tension or worry becomes a reminder. This is practice. This is training. This is life. Over time, anxiety transforms from a tyrant into a guide, showing you where your growth is needed. The Stoics called this amor fati, the love of fate. Embrace the challenge, don't fight it, and you build resilience that no circumstance can take away. Let's also touch on social relevance. Modern life bombards us with stimuli designed to provoke anxiety. Social media notifications, 24/7 news cycles, endless comparison, and instant judgment. Without a structured response system, we're left reactive, constantly swayed by external chaos. The Stoic habits counteract this by creating internal sovereignty. Alex's life illustrates this vividly. While colleagues panicked over emails or gossip, he remained calm, making decisions thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally. This gave him a competitive edge professionally and personally. Stoicism, in its modern application, doesn't just reduce anxiety, it amplifies performance, decision-making, and personal satisfaction. And finally, let's address a common objection. But life is unpredictable. What if something truly catastrophic happens? Here's the Stoic answer. The habits don't promise you a life without adversity, they promise control over how adversity affects you. Alex lost clients, faced criticism, and endured personal setbacks, yet the 5 habits allowed him to navigate each situation with composure. Anxiety no longer dictated his choices because he had built a multi-layered mental toolkit. And here's a tantalizing thought for you. The more consistently you practice, the more instinctive these habits become. Soon your mind will automatically default to perception, present focus, emotional detachment, voluntary discomfort, and physiological reset before panic even has a chance to arise. That's Stoic mastery in action.
Let's explore the long-term transformation that occurs when you consistently practice these 5 Stoic habits, because this is where the results become almost magical. In the short term, these habits reduce spikes of anxiety and give you practical tools to handle stressful moments. But over weeks and months, something deeper happens. Your nervous system, your thought patterns, and even your identity begin to change. Alex describes it as living in a state of calm readiness. He no longer experienced anxiety as a storm that knocks him off balance. Instead, he felt it as a signal, a nudge, a piece of feedback. Where panic once dictated his behavior, deliberate choice now ruled. This is more than just habit. It's a reprogramming of the mind's default settings. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity. The brain literally rewires itself based on repeated experiences. When you combine Stoic philosophy with deliberate practice, you accelerate this rewiring. Think about modern anxiety triggers: work pressures, social comparisons, family obligations, financial uncertainty. Most people respond reflexively, trapped in fear loops that reinforce their distress. Alex, however, now approached these triggers differently. An unexpected deadline became a structured challenge. Habit number 2,
present focus. A difficult conversation became a test of emotional resilience. Habit number 3, detachment. Even mundane discomforts, like traffic or minor setbacks, became opportunities to practice voluntary discomfort. Habit number 4. Or engage in a brief nervous system reset. Habit number 5. By layering habits, Alex didn't just survive anxiety, he transformed it into fuel for clarity and growth. The very situations that used to terrify him now enhanced his competence and composure. Here's a psychological insight worth emphasizing. Anxiety thrives on unpredictability and helplessness. When your mind perceives chaos as uncontrollable, cortisol floods your system and fear dominates. Stoic habits counteract this by establishing patterns of control. You can't always control external events, but you can control perception, focus, response, endurance, and physiology. Alex realized that mastery over internal experience automatically diminishes the perceived threat of external circumstances. Over time, the mind no longer overreacts to minor provocations. The body doesn't interpret normal stressors as life-threatening. This is why habitual practice matters. The more your system experiences these deliberate responses, the faster and more automatic the calm becomes. Let's frame this in a real-world social context. Many people today struggle with anxiety fueled by online life, constant notifications, judgment, comparison, and the pressure to perform. Alex applied Stoicism here too. He would take cold showers to start his day, habit number 4. Journal anxieties and reframe thoughts, habits 1 and 3. And focus on small, manageable tasks instead of endless scrolling, habit number 2. Whenever tension rose, he used deep breathing and posture adjustments, habit number 5. Over time, social media stopped controlling his emotional state. He could scroll, observe, and act consciously instead of reacting compulsively. Modern life is full of invisible triggers, but Stoicism equips you to navigate them deliberately. Here's an important reflection. The true power of these habits isn't just in anxiety reduction, it's in identity formation. When Alex practiced Stoicism daily, he stopped seeing himself as an anxious person. His self-concept shifted to that of a resilient, deliberate, composed individual. Modern psychology confirms this. Repeated actions aligned with a desired identity gradually reshape self-perception. When anxiety arises, it no longer defines who you are. It becomes a temporary signal, not a permanent label. This is the secret most self-help advice misses. You don't just manage anxiety. You transform your mind and body to the point where anxiety is no longer your default state. And here's a compelling open loop. While we've covered the habits and their long-term effects, there's an extra layer that most Stoics and modern practitioners rarely talk about: the daily rituals that compound results exponentially. Alex didn't just perform these habits occasionally. He embedded them into his morning, midday, and evening routines, creating a feedback loop of constant reinforcement. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to structure your day so these habits become automatic, making anxiety virtually powerless in your life.
Let's dive into how to integrate these 5 Stoic habits into a daily routine so that they stop being abstract ideas and start shaping your life every single day. The key is consistency over intensity. Alex didn't transform overnight because he tried to perform every habit perfectly at once. He started small, then layered practices gradually. Think of it like building a mental fortress. First, you lay the foundation, habit number 1, perception. Then add walls, habit number 2, present focus. Towers, habit number 3, emotional detachment. Guard posts, habit number 4, voluntary discomfort. And finally, a command center, habit number 5, nervous system reset. The difference between someone who struggles with anxiety and someone who masters it isn't talent or luck. It's deliberate, repeated action over time. Even 10 minutes a day performed consistently compounds dramatically over weeks and months. Here's an example of a morning routine Alex follows.
Upon waking, he starts with habit number 5, a brief nervous system reset. He takes 2 physiological sighs, stretches deliberately, and straightens his posture. This primes the body for calm. Next, he engages habit number 1 by journaling his thoughts and identifying distortions. Am I exaggerating? Am I seeing clearly? This anchors perception. Then habit number 2 comes into play. He plans immediate, focused actions for the day, rather than worrying about the entire week. Habit number 3, emotional detachment, is reinforced mentally as he reminds himself that he can't control external events, only his responses. Habit number 4 is voluntary discomfort. A cold shower or skipping breakfast trains resilience before stress arrives. By the time he leaves for work, his mind and body are prepared for anything life throws at him. Evenings offer another critical opportunity for practice. Alex reviews the day, reflecting on moments where anxiety arose. He asks, did I perceive accurately? Did I stay present? Did I detach emotionally? Did I embrace discomfort? Did I reset my nervous system? This reflection strengthens the neural pathways created during the day, turning habits into instinctive responses. Modern studies confirm this principle. Journaling, reflection, and mindful review reinforce prefrontal cortex activity, creating lasting improvements in emotional regulation and resilience. The Stoics intuitively understood this centuries ago. Daily reinforcement turns fleeting insights into permanent transformation. Social context matters too. Anxiety often spikes in interactions with other people, work, family, friends, or even strangers. By embedding Stoic habits into daily interactions, Alex ensured that no situation caught him unprepared. For example, if a colleague criticized him, he applied habit number 3, emotional detachment, and habit number 1, accurate perception, to separate fact from interpretation. If a surprise task arrived, habit number 2, present focus, kept him grounded in actionable steps rather than panicking about the bigger picture. Habit number 4, voluntary discomfort, prepared him mentally to handle minor irritations without overreacting. Finally, habit number 5 reset his body when tension peaked. By layering these in everyday life, he transformed ordinary interactions into opportunities for mastery. Here's the ultimate takeaway. The 5 Stoic habits are not magic tricks. They are a systematic method for training your mind and body to handle life's unpredictability. Anxiety will still arise. It is part of the human experience, but it no longer dominates. You become resilient, calm, and deliberate. And here's a subtle but powerful insight. The more you embed these habits into daily life, the less energy anxiety consumes. Energy that was once drained by panic can now be invested in creativity, decision-making, and meaningful action. Alex's experience proves this. He went from a person who feared daily life to someone who embraced it with clarity, confidence, and calm. Finally, here's the open loop to keep you hooked until the end. In the final sections of this video, I'll reveal the secret Stoic sequence Alex uses to maximize the impact of these 5 habits in less than an hour a day. This sequence is designed to compound results faster than any single habit alone, and give you a step-by-step method to turn Stoicism from theory into a practical, life-altering system. It's the final piece of the puzzle that makes anxiety not just manageable, but almost powerless.
Now, let's talk about the secret Stoic sequence, the step-by-step framework Alex uses to amplify the power of all 5 habits in his daily life. Think of it as a master blueprint, a routine that transforms Stoicism from abstract philosophy into practical, actionable results. The sequence begins before your day even starts, during what Stoics called the morning reflection. First, habit number 1, perception. Alex spends 5 to 10 minutes journaling, identifying fears, distortions, and exaggerated assumptions about the day ahead. This primes the mind to interpret events accurately rather than emotionally. Next comes habit number 2, present focus. He outlines the immediate tasks he can control today, ignoring outcomes beyond his influence. This shrinks overwhelming challenges into actionable steps, ensuring he doesn't waste mental energy on events that haven't occurred yet. Already, by just 15 minutes in, the mind is anchored, focused, and calm. Then comes habit number 3, emotional detachment. During this reflection, Alex asks, what situations today might trigger strong emotions, and how will I respond rationally? He visualizes potential challenges, not with panic, but with calm preparedness. This is the Stoic premeditation of adversity, a mental rehearsal that reduces fear before it arises. Next, habit number 4, voluntary discomfort is applied. Alex takes a cold shower, endures brief fasting, or even walks in challenging conditions, deliberately conditioning his nervous system to tolerate stress. By introducing small, manageable hardships early in the day, he primes resilience and builds mental toughness. The mind now associates difficulty not with panic, but with mastery. Finally, habit number 5, nervous system reset, anchors the sequence. Alex performs a brief 2-minute practice of deep breathing, posture adjustment, and physiological sighs. This shifts his nervous system into calm control, preparing both mind and body for action. By the time he begins his day, he is in a state the Stoics would call eupathia, rational, resilient, and composed, capable of responding instead of reacting. Studies in modern psychology affirm this effect, combining reflection, visualization, exposure to mild stress, and breath control dramatically improves emotional regulation and reduces chronic anxiety. Alex experienced it firsthand. Meetings that once caused panic were now manageable. Social interactions that used to feel exhausting became opportunities for confident engagement. But the sequence doesn't end there. Throughout the day, Alex employs micro-practices to reinforce each habit. Habit number 1 is revisited when he notices negative interpretations creeping in. He pauses, checks the evidence, and corrects distortions. Habit number 2 is reinforced when the mind drifts into future speculation. He returns focus to immediate, actionable tasks. Habit number 3, emotional detachment, activates whenever criticism, rejection, or judgment arises. Habit number 4 is layered steadily, standing instead of sitting, enduring minor discomforts intentionally, or challenging himself in small ways whenever he feels complacent. Habit number 5, nervous system reset, is employed anytime tension spikes, before a call, after a stressful conversation, or during an unexpected obstacle. Here's the transformative insight. When these habits are used in sequence and layered throughout the day, anxiety doesn't get a foothold. The mind and body operate as a unified system of calm and rational control. Alex calls it a mental armor, but it's more than that. It's a lifestyle that fundamentally changes how the brain responds to stress. Over weeks, the body learns that tension is survivable. The mind learns that fear is optional, and the spirit learns that life can be faced with confidence. The open loop for you? By the end of this video, you'll understand the exact daily framework Alex uses in just 1 hour per day to turn Stoicism into a full mental transformation, almost like hacking your own nervous system to be anxiety-proof. And here's the subtle secret most people overlook. The sequence is flexible. It doesn't require meditation retreats, expensive therapy, or rare talent. All it requires is consistency, a willingness to face mild discomfort, and deliberate attention to thoughts and physiology. In other words, anyone can apply it. Alex's life is proof. A regular person, once consumed by anxiety, now navigates the modern world with the calmness and clarity of a Stoic philosopher. But before we reveal the final, actionable, hour-a-day plan, let's explore why these habits work psychologically, socially, and physiologically. Because understanding the why gives them staying power.
To fully appreciate why these 5 Stoic habits are so effective, it helps to understand the science and psychology behind them. Anxiety is a feedback loop, a constant interaction between mind, body, and perception. Without intervention, this loop strengthens over time, becoming a neurological pathway that triggers panic almost automatically.
Modern neuroscience shows that repeated anxious responses reinforce amygdala activity, making your fear circuits hyperactive, while weakening the prefrontal cortex responsible for rational thought. Stoicism, as Alex discovered, is essentially a manual for rewiring these circuits. Habit number 1, perception, targets cognitive distortions, weakening automatic fear responses. Habit number 2, present focus, grounds attention in the present, reducing mental overextension and limiting anxiety triggers. Habit number 3, emotional detachment, teaches the mind to observe emotions rather than react, dampening the intensity of the amygdala's response. Habits number 4 and 5 work synergistically. Voluntary discomfort, habit number 4, strengthens resilience by providing controlled exposure to mild stress, activating adaptive stress pathways in the body, and teaching tolerance to uncertainty. This physiological training reduces the exaggerated fight or flight response that fuels anxiety. Habit number 5, nervous system reset, directly calms the autonomic nervous system, employing breath, posture, and micro-movements to signal safety to the body. Neuroscience calls this top-down regulation, intentional mental or behavioral strategies influencing bodily stress responses. Alex experienced this firsthand. He describes moments where anxiety was rising, but a deliberate reset immediately interrupted the cycle. Within seconds, his mind cleared, his chest relaxed, and panic lost its grip. The social and psychological aspects are equally profound. Anxiety is amplified by perceived expectations and social comparison. By practicing emotional detachment and present focus, Alex could navigate conversations, emails, and workplace pressures without internalizing every judgment or imagined slight. This created a social advantage. Colleagues noticed his composure, while his personal relationships improved because he responded rather than reacted. Over time, these habits created a positive feedback loop. Calm response led to better outcomes, which reinforced rational perception, further reducing anxiety. Stoicism is not just an internal exercise, it shapes external reality as well, influencing interactions, reputation, and opportunity. Here's a subtle but critical insight. Stoicism also addresses anticipatory anxiety, the fear of events that haven't yet occurred. Habit number 2's present focus and habit number 3's emotional detachment work together to neutralize this type of anxiety. When Alex faced a stressful future scenario, he mentally rehearsed it without emotional escalation and focused only on actionable steps. The brain's stress response diminished because it no longer anticipated catastrophe. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy mirrors this principle, yet Stoics applied it centuries before the science existed. Habit number 4 enhances this by creating tolerance to discomfort before crises occur. By pairing cognitive rehearsal with physical preparedness, Alex trained both mind and body to anticipate challenges calmly rather than panic. Finally, let's not underestimate the compounding effect of daily practice. Each day that Alex applied these habits, neural pathways strengthened, resilience increased, and anxiety triggers lost potency. Within months, what used to provoke hours of panic now caused minutes of mild awareness, which he could navigate effortlessly. This is the profound secret of Stoicism in action. Transformation is rarely sudden, but consistent, deliberate practice compounds into lasting mastery. And here's the open loop for you. In the next paragraph, I'll reveal the 1-hour daily framework that Alex follows to ensure these habits stick, along with practical tips to implement it immediately, even if you've tried everything else and failed. This final framework is where theory becomes tangible, actionable, and life-changing.
Now it's time to reveal the practical 1-hour daily framework Alex uses to make these 5 Stoic habits automatic and unshakable. This is where philosophy meets action, and theory becomes transformation. The framework is divided into 3 segments: morning, midday, and evening. Morning is the foundation. Alex spends the first 20 minutes on reflection and preparation. He begins with habit number 1, perception, journaling his anxieties and evaluating which are real and which are imagined. He asks, "What can I control today? What can I let go?" Then, habit number 2, present focus, comes into play as he lists immediate tasks in order of priority, focusing only on what's actionable today. Habit number 3, emotional detachment, is reinforced by visualizing potential challenges, rehearsing calm, and mentally preparing to respond rather than react. This segment primes the mind for the day ahead, reducing anticipatory anxiety before it even arises. The midday segment lasts 20 minutes and focuses on engagement and reinforcement. This is when Alex applies habit number 4, voluntary discomfort, through minor challenges like cold exposure, delayed meals, or purposeful focus on tasks outside his comfort zone. He couples this with micro resets, habit number 5, performing short breathwork sessions, posture adjustments, and physiological sighs whenever tension rises. Even a 5-minute reset during a stressful meeting or after receiving challenging news can dramatically lower cortisol levels and restore mental clarity. Here, the synergy of mind and body becomes clear. Perception, focus, and detachment shape the mind, while discomfort and reset shape the body. Anxiety is not just managed, it is intercepted and neutralized before it escalates. The final 20 minutes occurs in the evening, designed for reflection and consolidation. Alex revisits habits number 1 through 3 by journaling the day's events, evaluating whether his perception was accurate, his focus was present, and his emotional responses were deliberate. He also reflects on habit number 4, voluntary discomfort, assessing how it built resilience throughout the day, and habit number 5, nervous system resets, ensuring that physiological calm is reinforced before sleep. This nightly practice compounds results, embedding habits deeply into neural pathways. The combination of morning preparation, midday reinforcement, and evening reflection creates a continuous loop that strengthens the mind-body system. Over time, anxiety becomes not only manageable, but almost irrelevant. Here's why this framework is unique. It doesn't require hours of meditation, expensive therapy sessions, or extreme life changes. It requires commitment, consistency, and a willingness to face minor discomforts daily. Alex emphasizes small, deliberate actions: 10 minutes of journaling, 2 minutes of breath work, and 3 controlled discomforts are sufficient to start rewiring the mind. The framework is flexible, but structured, allowing anyone, regardless of life circumstances, to integrate it seamlessly. Over a few weeks, the habits begin to operate automatically. The mind defaults to calm, the body responds with control, and the feedback loop reinforces resilience at every turn. The real magic of this framework lies in its compounding effect. Anxiety is not defeated by sporadic efforts. It is defeated by consistency, anticipation, and control over both mind and body. Alex's life demonstrates this vividly. What once felt like constant, uncontrollable panic is now replaced with calm confidence, clarity of thought, and purposeful action. Challenges that once paralyzed him now become opportunities to apply his skills and grow. And here's the open loop for you. In the final paragraph, we'll distill the timeless Stoic wisdom behind all these habits into a single actionable philosophy you can carry into every day of your life. A philosophy that transforms anxiety, builds resilience, and creates unstoppable mental freedom.
As we approach the final piece of this journey, it's time to distill the timeless wisdom of Stoicism into a single, actionable philosophy that underpins all 5 habits. This philosophy is simple in words, yet profoundly transformative in practice. Focus on what you can control, accept what you cannot, and act deliberately in every moment. Every Stoic habit we've explored flows directly from this principle. Habit number 1, perception, teaches you to see reality clearly,
separating facts from fear. Habit number 2, present focus, keeps your attention where it matters, in the sphere of influence you can actually change. Habit number 3, emotional detachment, frees you from being ruled by outcomes outside your control. Habit number 4, voluntary discomfort, builds endurance so that life's inevitable challenges no longer overpower you. Habit number 5, nervous system reset, ensures your body and mind respond in alignment, not in panic. Together, they embody the essence of control over self and acceptance of reality. Consider the modern relevance of this principle. Today, we live in a hyper-connected world filled with uncertainty, rapid change, and constant comparison. Social media notifications, workplace demands, and global crises all compete for our attention and emotional energy. Most people react reflexively, allowing anxiety to dominate, while others surrender control to circumstances. The Stoic approach, as Alex discovered, is radically different. By consistently practicing these habits, you reclaim your attention, regulate your physiology, and cultivate mental clarity. Anxiety no longer dictates your life, it becomes a signal that alerts you to apply the very tools you now possess. Over time, this philosophy creates a mindset of calm, resilience, and deliberate action, impervious to most external pressures. Here's a story that illustrates this beautifully. Alex once faced a sudden professional crisis. A major project failed due to unforeseen circumstances. In the past, this would have triggered weeks of sleepless nights, panic, and self-doubt. But with the Stoic system, he approached the situation methodically. Habit number 1 allowed him to evaluate the facts objectively. Habit number 2 grounded him in actionable steps to mitigate the impact. Habit number 3 kept emotions from overwhelming his decisions. Habit number 4 reminded him that discomfort is survivable. And habit number 5 regulated his body, preventing physiological panic. The result? The crisis was managed efficiently with calm and clarity, and Alex emerged stronger and more confident than before. This story is proof. Anxiety is not eliminated by circumstance, but by the habits that govern your response. Finally, the ultimate takeaway, the principle that ties everything together, is that freedom from anxiety is not external, it is internal. It is cultivated, like a garden, with deliberate daily actions. The Stoics teach that external events cannot enslave the mind unless we allow them to. Alex's journey exemplifies this perfectly, from chronic, paralyzing anxiety to a life marked by calm, control, and resilience. And here's the final open loop. You now have the full roadmap, the 5 habits, the daily framework, the neuroscience, and the Stoic philosophy. But the transformation only happens when you take one critical step: consistent daily application. Knowledge alone is powerless. Action converts philosophy into life. The choice is yours.
Now, it's time to bring everything together and leave you with a vision that will change how you approach anxiety and life itself. The 5 Stoic habits are more than tools. They are a way of life. Habit number 1, perception, teaches clarity in thinking. Habit number 2, present focus, anchors your attention in the now. Habit number 3, emotional detachment, gives freedom from outcomes. Habit number 4, voluntary discomfort, builds resilience. And habit number 5, nervous system reset, aligns body and mind. But the ultimate lesson, the one Alex discovered that transformed him completely, is that mastery over anxiety is a compound effect. Each habit alone is valuable, but together, consistently applied, they create a mental ecosystem that is nearly impervious to fear, panic, or stress. This is not magic. It is the deliberate, disciplined application of ancient wisdom to modern life. Imagine yourself 6 weeks from now, practicing just a portion of this system daily. You wake up, apply the morning sequence, face challenges with a calm, clear mind, and feel a sense of control you never thought possible. You encounter the same stresses that once paralyzed you: work deadlines, social pressure, unexpected news, and yet you navigate them effortlessly. Anxiety still visits, but it no longer dominates.
it becomes a temporary signal rather than a permanent state. The nervous system you've trained, the mind you've disciplined, and the perspective you've developed act as a buffer, a protective shield that allows you to respond rather than react. This is the essence of Stoic mastery: freedom in the midst of chaos, calm in the storm, and strength in adversity. But this isn't just personal, it's transformational, socially, professionally, and spiritually. Alex noticed that calm, deliberate behavior attracts opportunity, respect, and collaboration. People instinctively trust composure. Problems become solvable instead of overwhelming. And internally, there is a profound shift. Instead of fearing life, you begin to embrace it, recognizing that discomfort, challenge, and uncertainty are not enemies, but catalysts for growth. Every spike of tension becomes an invitation to practice. Every unexpected obstacle a chance to apply these timeless principles. Over time, this creates a life not defined by avoidance, distraction, or fear, but by clarity, resilience, and intentional action. The final step for transformation: implement just one habit today, even in a small way. Journal a fear and examine it. Habit number 1. Take 2 minutes of focused breathing. Habit number 5. Or engage in a voluntary discomfort, like a cold shower. Habit number 4. Small, deliberate actions compound into mastery. The key is consistency. Start today, reinforce tomorrow, and layer habit upon habit until your mind, body, and spirit operate in unison. Alex's life is proof that even chronic anxiety can be rewired into calm, clarity, and control through dedicated Stoic practice. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions. Start with what you have. Finally, remember the overarching Stoic principle. You control your mind, you accept what you cannot control, and you act deliberately in every moment. Anxiety is no longer a life sentence. It is a signal, a teacher, and an opportunity. By integrating these 5 habits into your daily life, you reclaim the freedom, clarity, and resilience that ancient philosophers perfected and modern science confirms. The choice is yours. Today, you can remain bound by fear, or you can step into the Stoic system and transform every anxious thought into a deliberate, powerful action that strengthens your mind, your body, and your life. This is not philosophy. This is freedom. This is mastery.